Hi, Cosmic Soul family. In today's conversation, we're going to be looking at the full moon in Aquarius on July 29th at 10:27 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be at 6 degrees, 25 minutes. So we've got a lot of astrology happening during this day. I'm going to go ahead and share with you all the aspects that I was able to glean from my program that I use. So if you want to go ahead and take a screenshot of all the aspects, there's a lot to look at. And I'm going to do something a little different today. I'm going to go ahead and put up what's called the beginner's wheel in astrology. So it gives you some of the glyphs and the index of what some of these symbols mean. So those that are studying astrology and kind of want to understand what these symbols signify, there's a little bit of an index on this screen. So again, you can check it out, take a screenshot, memorize some of these glyphs, because it's basically talking about the configuration of the energies for this approaching full moon, which we can already, I'm sure, feel for those that are watching this. I'm filming this on the 27th. So yeah, the first things, because this is an intuitive channel, so again, there's a lot to look at, but the things that really stood out to me when first approaching this energy is I'm looking at the screen and I'm just asking my highest version self, the wisdom that wants to be gleaned through the collective, is this incredible, first of all, Cazimi that's happening. So Cazimi is where it means the heart of, in the heart of the sun. So Jupiter will be in the heart of the sun at exactly 6 degrees in the sign of Leo. So Jupiter is expansion, Leo is the heart, the sun is our identity, it's our ego. So we're really being asked to expand our creativity and what we've come into this plane of existence to create through Leo. So there's an expansion energy. Again, there's always agreeable and disagreeable aspects to each configuration. That's just in this law of polarity that we live in. So the agreeable aspects are really illuminating where you've come to shine your light to be your most creative self, what really lights your heart up. Jupiter is going to be expanding that. The sun's going to be illuminating that. But of course, we've got an opposition energy that's going to require you to look at your emotional needs within the collective, because the moon, which is going to be opposite at 6 degrees, rules our emotions. And it's going to be conjunct or right next to Pluto, which is retrograde. So it's our inner power. So there might be some inner power struggles as you're being asked to expand. Actually, you're being illuminated and sort of forced to expand. Think of like a helium balloon, right? There's energy, hot air being blown into you to expand your life force energy and your creativity. But there's an opposing force or energy, which again, oppositions just create the need for balance. Are you overextending or overexpanding within your groups and organizations, Aquarius, with humanity, right? Power. And so with this expansion, can there be some power struggles that you might have to face within your collective groups, within your organizations, whether, wherever this transit's going to be aspecting your chart? That's your house system. That's the where, right? So you want to look to see where Leo is in your chart, and you want to see where this opposition of Aquarius is in your chart, right? So I'm just showing right now what's on the screen is 0 degrees Aries. It just keeps everything. It's based on time and date, but we're just looking at Aries on the ascendant just to keep the configuration the way astrology does it. And so you can see that Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is your hopes, dreams, wishes, groups, organizations, humanitarian causes. It rules technology, the future, invention, right? So these are, Pluto's our power, but in retrograde, it's about going inward. It's accessing your inner power within groups, organizations. Are your needs, emotional needs, the moon, being met by the groups and people you're involved with? Are your hopes, dreams, and wishes are still in alignment with this new heart expansion that Jupiter and the sun are providing? And, the full moons are endings. So what's ending so that you can expand and grow? Something has to die for something to be born. And because there is this balance energy, right? So something has to leave your life in order to make space for it. Think about if you want to go, shopping for new clothes, you got to have room in your closet for all these new clothes. So you got to remove the old, outdated, outworn clothes that no longer fit you, that you no longer feel comfortable in, so you can make space for new clothing, comfortable clothing, clothing that makes you feel good in your skin, that helps you, because Leo likes to look good, right? So what makes you look good makes you feel good. And so, I tend to look at this as a more elementary, because again, this, all these astrology configurations can get very high level, but I just try to bring it down to the basics, right? To basic everyday relatable life, and where these configurations can be showing up. Because astrology is a language, and learning to speak the language, learning to read the glyphs of the language is part of the journey. So that's why we have in the background here. And again, I would invite you to, take a screenshot and learn some of these glyphs and what they mean. And of course, I have a free ebook. If anybody wants that, you can reach out to me and I'd be happy to send that. Because we're all here learning to learn a language to express ourselves in a different way. And this is what Leo really is asking for, is a new expression. And then another configuration that came through as I was studying and just tuning into this Cazimi energy was also, of course, the nodal points. The north and south node have shifted from Virgo and Pisces now. This was back on June 26th. They shifted now into the south node being Leo, and what we've come to learn, north node, is in Aquarius. So this is also, again, has to do with groups, hopes, dreams, and wishes, your organizations, humanity. All the things Aquarius, you guys can go and look that up and see all the Aquarian attributes, because that's what we've come to learn in a big way. And so this full moon that's happening right before eclipse season, which is approaching in August, is really going to be illuminating what needs to change, what needs to shift, what's dying off anyway. Think of leaves like falling off a tree. And so with the south node is what we've already mastered, which is individuality. It's our own creative life force energy. It's leadership. It's courage, having a courageous need to be our individuated self. And so that's where we're coming from. But what we're moving towards is, how do we bring our creativity to the group in a non-belligerent, non-tyrannical way, right? Because again, there's always agreeable and disagreeable aspects to these astrology transits. And so we've also got some retrogrades happening. Saturn just went retrograde. I believe, let me look to see. I don't know the dates on that. I think it just went retrograde soon, within the last few days. And Neptune and Saturn are going to be retrograde until December. I know that part when I was looking that up. So we've got this retrograde period. And again, retrogrades are always about going inwards. They're more of the inner expression of the self. Saturn is our structure. It's our long-term goals. It's what we want to create for the future in the long term. It's our mastery. Neptune is our dreams. It's our vision. It's our spirituality. So from now until December, we're going to be faced to go inward. And of course, there's a shadow period, which is, I believe, Neptune's happening until April of next year, of 2027. So we've got these next 5-6 months now to really be focusing inwards on the structures we want to create, Aries, from the self, from our own identity, right? What's going to be for the long haul for ourselves, the new I am presence, because Saturn is again in Aries. I am what? I am the sovereign. I am responsible. I am committed. What are you committed to? Well, it's asking you to be committed to yourself, to new ideas, because we've still got Uranus there in Gemini, which is sextiling Neptune, which is our dreams, our vision, our spirituality. And so Uranus is giving us out of the blue aha ideas, revelations about what our spiritual nature, who we really are. It's recontextualizing everything we've been taught in early education. Gemini is dissolving everything we thought we know about our identity, ourself. This is Neptune dissolving. And then Saturn wants to restructure. It wants to rebuild based on the new foundations of who you are now. your new hopes, dreams, and wishes, your new creative life force energy that's Jupiter's expanding into your sun, into your ego identity. But there has to be a dissolving before a restructuring. So again, there's always this delicate energy where time, ends and begins, even though we're eternal beings, and really you get to states of consciousness where there is no time. But in this particular construct, we are working with the energy of time. It's how we build material foundations in this realm, from my understanding, or understanding rather. And so what's being asked of us right now, when I actually pulled some tarot cards that correspond with this, because I always like to look at the imagery as I'm tuning in and channeling, tuning into my own highest version self. That's the channel I'm tuned into. I'm not tuned into anything outside of myself. I'm always tuned into the inner visionary. This is what I've learned through this whole North Node, when the North Node was in Pisces for the last 18 months. Now it's how do I turn that inner vision, that inner gnosis, into an outer expression to help humanity get a better understanding of these collective energies and what we can all be experiencing. So again, if you are a vibrational match to this channel, I'm so grateful that you're here spending time and space and just learning with me these energies, because I'm an eternal student. I've got Sag rising. So it's always the philosophy, which astrology is such a great philosophical tool with the language of neutrality to really express these energies in a very coherent, loving, expansive, and hopefully powerful way that we can all relate to on some level, right? Because we all have these aspects. We all have Aries through Pisces in our chart. It's just varying degrees. And you can look to see too, if you look at one of the indexes, you can also see the elements, right? Fire, earth, air, water, and the aspects, how many of these planetary energies are in each of these elements. You can see it's air dominant. The second dominant element in this particular configuration is fire, which is very masculine, right? So fire and air are masculine, earth and water are feminine. And you can see that there's 16 out of the polarities of 20, 16 aspects or planets are in masculine planets. So this is a very transformative, action-oriented time. Even though there's some retrogrades happening, the action is inward. It's an inward action journey to restructure your inner thought processes, the way you perceive reality, the way you work with your spiritual nature, your spiritual practices. We've got Venus in Virgo, which is squaring Mars. So Venus, in the archetypes is the feminine, Mars is the masculine, right? Venus is in a feminine sign, Virgo. Mars is in a masculine sign, Gemini, at both 21 degrees. So Mars wants to take action on its thoughts, right? Its impulsiveness. It just wants to go, go, go. And Venus is the receiver, right? She wants to take her time. She wants to be embodied. And so square energies, as we can see here during this full moon, there's a bit of I would say, not a disagreeable energy, but an adjustment needs to be made between your masculine action-oriented thoughts and your feminine receptivity being in your body. So in other words, take time, because Venus wants to slow down and Mars and Gemini wants to speed up, right? So you can see where there's that conflict. It's almost like having your foot on the accelerator and then having your other foot on the brake, right? So where do you meet in the middle? How can you resolve the square? How can you release the tension that your masculine, which would be your electric side, right? If not in terms so much of gender, but of frequency. And how do you balance your magnetic side, which is your feminine, in Virgo? Well, before you take action on what you're thinking about, you might want to put it through a filtration system, because Virgo is about purifying, right? So think about purifying your thoughts before you take action on them, because not every thought is meant to be acted upon. Some thoughts are just fleeting. They're just, I think of clouds in the sky, they just are meant to be observed and looked at. We don't have to hang on to every thought. So this is where it takes the maturity of Saturn retrograde, right? Really go inward and figure out what you really are drawn to, what you're passionate about, Aries, fire, what you want to initiate from your heart, from your I am presence. Because again, it's aspecting Leo, And so it's just kind of touching on it. There's no real exact aspects because it's not orbiting anything. But I say that there is, because with that Jupiter and the sun, it's really highlighting what the desires are, the creativity from the heart that wants to shine through. But at Saturn and Aries is asking for structure, what you do on the daily, the I am presence. So this has to do too, because it's sextiling Neptune there. Neptune is sextiling Uranus. Get into your spiritual practices. Align your thoughts, Gemini, with your heart, Leo, because again, it's going to be sextiling this energy as well. And then we have a semi-square between Mars, also in Jupiter. It's a 45-degree angle. So that's considered a half of a square. So it's a semi-square. It's half 45 degrees, which is also a tension point, right? So again, Jupiter's asking for expansion, but Mars just wants to take action, whatever it thinks about. Well, Jupiter, the original ruler of Pisces before they discovered Neptune, wants you to take action on your spiritual purposes, on that which is connected to the divine, the energies that are unseen, that can be felt, but not necessarily, I think of like the breath, right? You can feel the breath, you can't see it. And so maybe this also, because Uranus is in Gemini, really concentrating on your breath work. We've got Mercury, who rules Gemini, still in Cancer. It's just coming out of its shadow period, and it'll be moving forward past the point when it went retrograde in August. So we're still thinking, Mercury, about family, about safety, about security, about the past, memories, childhood, right? So this is still a tender time. You know, Jupiter's the heart of the child. And, you know, what I'm hearing too with this energy with Neptune, it's like childlike devotion, right? It's because you're a multi-talented, complex being. It's time to really embrace who you are, to really lovingly love yourself unconditionally, no matter what the group others think, right? This is the time to express yourself and to be in your full power, and but also be authentic, because, you know, Aquarius can be a very detached energy. Can you look at yourself in a detached way and not take things so personal? I think of also to the Four Agreements, the Toltec wisdom of not taking things personally, because during this transit, you're going to be, again, since Pluto is retrograde and is going to be conjunct this moon, there might be some power dynamics that you're being forced to face within groups, with maybe within your own family as well, right? Anyone that's threatening your new sense of identity, your tender, I think of like just coming out of the shell. This is a tender time for you to step into your power. And so anything that can be threatening that power, which again, there's a disagreeable aspect, right? Grandiosity. You can step into too much power and think, you know, you're the bee's knees because you've been so depleted and lacking self-worth. We just came out of Chiron and Aries. So now we're like, okay, we're discovering a sense of self in the I am, but it might be overexpanding that. So it might be overinflating the ego and thinking that you can do more than you can. So this is where that Venus in Virgo is really helping kind of mitigate that. Say, look, why don't you just practice your new I am presence every day? You know, tune into your frequency, do what you love, take care of yourself, because Venus is love and beauty and value. And Virgo's the body, it's health, it's purification. It's ruled, Virgo's feminine. It's the only feminine aspect that's ruled by a feminine sign, right? It's the Virgin. So it's really coming into a space of innocence within yourself. And again, the square with Mars and Gemini, you don't always have to take action on every thought you think. You can burn yourself out. Gemini has the nervous system. It's overthinking. It can create overwhelm and stress and, you know, just thinking too much, right? So it's about taking that Saturn structure, think about before what you want to bring about. How is it going to relate to your expansion, to your growth? How is it going to help not only you, but all of humanity? How can you take your gifts and step into your power, but do it in an organized, authoritative way? Well, you know, in retrograde, it's about the inner work. It's about becoming the inner authority. And so it takes practice. It's the daily practice of honoring yourself, honoring the other, taking care of your body, And with Chiron and Taurus, it wants you to slow down. Really, with all this masculine energy, between the fire and the air, it can be very fast. So the medicine, I would say, or the counterbalance is slowing down and being embodied, taking those Epsom salt baths and grounding, even more important, because, electric energy, which is very much air, it can almost zap your nervous system. Think of like an electrical wire. If it's not grounded, it can zap the whole energy system. So just really be mindful too of the thoughts that are coming up, that are arising, that are being fully illuminated with this moon. Because, your emotions, the benefit, I would say, because Aquarius is detached, you can look at your situation that you're in right now that needs to change. And you can look at it in a very detached way, which could be very beneficial because, again, Mercury's in Cancer. So, Mercury, the thoughts can be very emotional. We just came out of a very emotional time with the sun in Cancer, with Mercury retrograde Cancer. So it really had to make us look at our foundational ancestral patterns that were very tender, that some of it was very painful, right? Thinking about the past, childhood, family. But now we can look at it from a different periphery, from a more detached point of view, and then take action. I love the idea of ritual, and ritual is just something is like brushing your teeth, right? It's a daily ritual. So with Virgo, the ritual really is, because Virgo's in Venus, the ritual is to love yourself unconditionally, love your inner child. Love your childlike devotion. Have a childlike devotion to your spiritual practices, to, divine intelligence, God, source energy, whatever you connect to, whatever you identify with as that higher power, that unknown, mystical, ineffable power that surrounds all of us. Because now we're here to learn how to integrate that with the nodes and bring that into our groups, our hopes, dreams, and wishes, our highest potential for humanity. But it is being connected to that source energy, that ineffable source Indra's net of the quantum field that we're all connected to, and doing it in an organic and loving and devotional way. And by being in your heart, by being like the heart of the child, then that's going to help everybody. Because if you're the leader, right, you're leading from your heart. That's also how that's the leaders, the new earth leaders that are being called into this dimensional space is coming from your heart. We want heart-led leaders. And it's we're not going to shout from the rooftops. Those heart-led leaders, they're not going to be dominant. They're going to be just constructing the world around them from their heart space and leading by example, not by dominance or tyranny. That's the old paradigm that's falling away. And it's helping us step into our own inner authority or power. We want to take action on how we feel, but let's mitigate. And again, not every thought needs action. Slow down, be in your body, and maybe think about, is this in the highest good? Is the action I'm getting ready to take in the highest good for myself and everyone around me? And maybe that can be your filtration system, Virgo, because Virgo wants purity. And that could be a way to mitigate and maybe only take action on that which is in the highest best for you and everyone else, your neighbors, groups, organizations, because Mars is in Gemini. It's neighbors, friends, people around you in the everyday. And so making that the spiritual practice to be grounded in your body before you go out into the world, before you go spend time with friends or family or neighbors, and just have that filtration system, because that'll help you have a more harmonious experience, because all of humanity is shifting and changing in very big ways and in very long-lasting Saturnian ways, right? But we got to still do the inner work. So this also requires too, knowing thyself, because right now there's a lot of information, a lot of data dump. I think of the new flood, it has been information. So this is also, again, using your discernment, what to believe, who to follow, what information you take in. A simple filtration system that I use is does the podcast I'm listening to, does this leader that I follow, does he or she point into the direction of that I have the knowledge within, that I am the sovereign, and to really go in and curate what I feel that is the truth, because it'll feel good in the body. it'll resonate. There's a resonance. Again, we're looking at Aquarius and Gemini, which is about vibration, frequency. So if the frequency feels off in your body, trust it. Don't second guess it. Go out and ground before you ask any questions. This is also too really being a sovereign about your water, because we know we got Mercury in Cancer, and we all know about cymatics and programming and structuring your water. It's based on your thoughts and how you speak to your waters, your inner waters as well. So this is really getting very precise on not only your intake, what you're intaking food-wise, but also data, information, and then put it through that filtration system to see how does it feel in the body. If it doesn't feel good, trust your inner self. This is also that Saturnian retrograde in Aries. Learn how to trust yourself. Learn how to trust your intuition right there, Neptune, Aries, retrograde. Trust your own inner resources. And for those of us who are always taught to outsource or to believe another or to look to another to get information, this is the inward journey. This is the exploration, the invitation to go inward and to learn to trust yourself and to mitigate, to purify, because sometimes we can have mental psychosis if there's too much confusion energy, because with all this dissolving that Neptune's doing, it has to dissolve stuff. You don't know what to hang on to. And so I think of just falling, I think of the old Nestea commercials where they used to fall into the pool and just have the pool catch them and then just let the water catch you and float down the riverbanks and just trust. These are all Neptunian words, right? Surrender, trust to the flow, let go. Maybe make that your mantra. Start listening more meditative practices, really just harnessing the power of the now. Don't go too far in the past, because the retrograde sometimes can linger in the past, and that can cause some depression, especially if you had trauma or things that you need to forgive from the other or yourself. And then anxiety comes if you're too much forward in the future, and you're worried about what shoulda, coulda, woulda, when really the science is showing us it's our ability to perceive is what changes the reality, and you can only do that when you're in the now. So the now is when you're in the know, and this is the practice. This is the sacred practice of getting to trust yourself and to know what you know. And if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to know everything. None of us know everything. We're all in this, as the illusions are falling away, as things are disintegrating before our eyes, even about technology, Pluto, about science and health and everything we were taught. Growing up, that all may be dissolving. So we have to make room for the new by letting all the old, outdated beliefs that just never resonated, never made sense. We need to let that go. And it's happening anyway. So if we can just let go of it with grace and ease, then we're going to have a really incredible transit with this full moon. Because again, there's so many configurations. And again, I would invite you to go and take a screenshot and look at all the different aspects, because there's so much more of the story that can be told here. This is just part of the story that wanted to be told today through the livzenastrology experience. And even in the name Live Zen, it's about learning how to live with these energies in a very Zen way, in a very collaborative, just harmonious way. Even when it gets confusing, even when it gets overwhelming, even when the energies feel like they're pulling you apart, but it's really tightening you like a string. I think of tuning you, right? The tension is really, if you don't have tension when you're playing a guitar or playing a violin, you don't have sound, you don't have coherence. So ultimately, these tensions are bringing coherent vibrations through the collective field. If we just stay in allowance, surrender, stay in our hearts, again, have that childlike devotion, allow yourself to glide through the currents with a different approach to how you've done things. This is also what this Aquarius full moon is illuminating in a detached way, is what no longer works. What can this flow, this current be bringing in? And it's about changing your perspective. It's about, understanding that our perspective, how we see the world, is shifting and changing. And so if you can stay in your heart and let your heart guide you, stay in your practice, purify your vessel, purify your thoughts, right? Not every thought is meant to be believed or acted on, and use discernment with what actions you take. Then the Venus flow with Virgo is steadfast devotion to loving your health, to loving your body, to loving your creations. And so this is where we all, humanity can be going. And so this is just some of the reflections that wanted to come through. And if you're still here in this conversation, I just want to thank you for taking your most valuable resource, which is your time, to explore these cosmic energies with me. And if you like this type of perspective of astrology, I would invite you to subscribe and share and like and do all the things. It helps the channel grow. It's like watering my little flower here, our little channel, our little garden. We're growing community. We're learning to love ourselves, to have a more harmonious experience with these energies, to live Zen with the astrology, with the language, with the perception, with time, with each other. And so again, I just thank you so much for being part of this conversation. I'm very grateful you're here. And yeah, if you want to go do a ritual, it is predominantly an air and fire sign. So maybe you can write down all the things, the negative things that, talk, negative aspects, words that you associate with yourself, with your creations, and burn them in a fire. And just do like a free flow. This is what I plan on doing, like a free flow, automatic writing of all the negative things I have ever heard throughout my childhood. This is, of course, Gemini, early education, Leo, where I took it to heart. And it just doesn't make sense to hold on to it, though I've built a whole life of just, words and things that just were never true, that I may have heard out of context, and then I took it to be truth. And so this is an opportunity, again, with this detached perspective, to write these words, these images, these visions, these ways of seeing self down that just keep you in bondage, that keep you separate, that keep you in lack, that keep you in confusion, and just release it through the fire, right? Just let it all go. Because when the new moon happens in Leo, we're going to be asked to rebuild and recreate from a new space. You got to make room for it, though. Create space in your head for all kind of new creative ideas and thoughts and things that are more loving, that make more sense now with who you are now, not based on the past, not what your family taught you, not what you learned in early education, but who you are now. So staying very present and in the now is a really powerful space to be. So, okay, thank you again for hanging on and listening to this conversation, and we will see you in the next transmission. So much love, soul family. God.